Hello and welcome back to Loud and Pretty Average Gaming. This is part 19 of the Grimoire series of Destiny, and in this video we'll be reading about the Queen. The Queen. I too am noble, O Lord of Wolves. Starlight was my mother, and my father was the Dark. The Queen of the Awoken is as much an enigma as the Reef she rules. It is said that she won her crown through ruthlessness, and that she stands as the master of the fallen House of Wolves in place of their defeated Kel. The city's rise spells an end to the Reef's age of isolation. The Queen will surely look to this new era as an opportunity, and the city, in turn, must look to her. The Reef-born Awoken have spent long ages out at the edge of everything, and they may know secrets of terrible weight, the Queen most of all. Now for the Queen's ghost fragments. For a while, the only lights were the eyes of the witches tending to the cells. The drone of the soul machines echoed through the prison. Gas billowed and ebbed into the shadows. She entered. They scurried to their points around her, the method of their arrangement precise. The Archon priest has been retired, my queen, said the witch to her right. Far from throne and audience, she moved without theatre. Any word of Calyx Prime? We still sense something among the Anunnakis. This voice came from behind her. She did not turn to acknowledge it. For the span of a brief silence, she moved between the cells of the wolf nobility, with their witches in constellation around her. More of your brother's crows have entered the cauldrons of Rhea. The witch directly before her spoke with a dry buzz. The 9 do not approve. She stopped a moment to study the sealed face of a cell. The cloud of her breath mingled with the slow exhalation of cryonics. Send them one of our prizes. Something to commemorate our mutual victory. And which one of our prizes would you gift? If she paused to think about it, it was only for an instant. Send them Skolas. A lovely gesture. She cocked her head as if listening for a frozen heartbeat. And remind them this, the crows are mine. You don't have one. The hunter came to a halt in front of the throne, raised her covered face to meet the prince's gaze. No, she agreed. My next death will be my last. I know the feeling, the prince said dryly. The queen kept her expression carefully distant. She sat reclined in the throne, legs crossed, surveying the two figures at the base of the steps. Beside her, where the wolf's guard used to stand, Techians Shiro and Sedia hovered instead, their jewel-like augments gently humming. To her right and just before stood the prince, facing forward but his body half turned back towards her. Your Grace, said the man standing before her at the foot of the stairs. His voice was soft but strong. When he spoke, the hunter started to turn her head towards him, then flinched, as if someone had shone a bright light into her eyes. Thank you for your gracious welcome, he said. The queen inclined her head slightly. Before we begin, spoke out the hunter, I will say this. She paused, her head tilted up to the throne. The queen waved her hand in assent. The hunter's pale lips tightened slightly, then resumed their usual stony mien. Your Grace, she said. Shiro and Sedia lifted, a sudden rustling and whispering. The queen raised one finger to silence them. Aldrin's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. I'm not here for you. The queen stared at the hunter, her expression studiously unchanged. I have no wish to play politics. I have no grievance with the city, not anymore. I have no grand hopes to end the war. For long I have known I will not see its end. I am here for one battle and one alone. Because it is a battle we must all fight, together or separately. So I will warn the defenders, together or separately, I will do anything. Her voice shook with passion. To end Oryx. A silence rang out in the room. The hunter kept her head raised, her ambitious gaze directed at the shadows in the throne where the queen reclined. Then, a small smile curved the queen's lips. Well said. She straightened and leaned slightly forward so the room's light fell on her face. So let us end him. The Queen's brother. I will not sacrifice my birthright for the promise of security. As the Queen's confidant, spy master, and deadliest enforcer, her brother wields enormous power, particularly for a male born in the Reef's matriarchal society. Recent reports suggest he may differ from the Queen on key matters of strategy, but it remains to be seen whether this gap is a source of conflict, or a part of the reason the Queen values him so highly. Ghost Fragment, the Queen's brother. The machine had wings and feathers, sleek and black as its body, but the feathers were eyes too, sharp and delicate. and ears that pricked at every sound. The young prince considered the machine, considered its purpose and his own, and then he called to it. "I have a task for you." Obedience was woven into its workings, so it stopped.
"Master of crows."
"Mind the Black Garden's gate. Follow anyone who passes through."
"In the name of your sister."
The machine vowed, and it went to find its warp capsule, just as another came in. But this one flew skittishly, as if to evade its master. The prince caught it from the air. "You avoid me."
"I am tasked by the queen."
"But you serve me." He trembled in displeasure for a moment. "Tell me your news." The machine flicked its wings. The prince stroked them flat with slow, assured motions. "Tell me your news," he said again. "What's the harm?"
"The heart is growing stronger,"
the crow said.
"The Vex transformation has begun, and the progeny are stirring."
The prince considered this in silence for a moment, and then he wrapped the crow up in his fist and folded its wings around it so it could not move or fly. He did all this swiftly and with purpose. Carrying the machine, he went to see his sister. She was alone with her fallen guards, sitting before a window into infinity. Her eyes did not leave the universe, but sensing her brother, she said, "Yes, what is it?" "There is news to share," he said, and offered the crow in his fist, "and I think I have earned the right to share it." Varix the Loyal.
"They call me betrayer. They do not think I hear the words, bug, insect, fallen. I hear. House of Judgment always hears. No choice, has to. To keep house together, had to. First the great machine, then sky fell away. Whirlwind ripped away the past. All honor lost, all hope. Judgment not enough. Cannot keep wolves from kings, scar from winter. Fell to fighting, fell to hate. Judgment gone, others slaughtered, slain. Death and docking. Keep Elixni together, lost to pride and rage. Travelled with many houses before wolves. We move across the dark. Follow the light. Advise Kells. Worshipped primes. House Judgment must survive, yes. Found the light. Too bright in darkness to hide. House Winter attack. House Devils plot. House Kings plan. House Wolves circle. House Judgment. Wait. Now at war. Fight for system. Control the belt. Wolves Kell dead. Dying. Skolas wins control of the House of Wolves. Attack, attack, attack. Place of learning. Place of healing. Put to the burn. Then siege of Palace. Year of cruelty. Held the line to rescue butchers, murderers, servitors. Ends with wolf fleet scattered. New tactics. Detonations. Blasts in civilian areas. Take the fight to them, he said. Cannot abide to hate. Uprising, they called it. Uprising on Cybele. Reach out to crows, to queen. Cybele attack stopped. Skolas captured. Ended House of Wolves with words. Paladins find me hiding, cowering. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. I become Varix the Loyal. House Judgment and Void to Queen of Awoken. No choice. House Judgment must survive. Yes?
The Queen's Wrath, Petrovenge. To my lady, Marasov, Queen of the Awoken. My letter is a plea, my lady. A simple one. Please let me come home. It has been years now since my appointment as your emissary. Once I was proud to call myself a corsair in your service. My sisters and I were the sharp edge of your will, cutting across the stars in protection of the reef. It was your service that kept me from sorrow after Amethyst was raised. The loss of my sisters, my whole life, as our station burned, it took something from me. By your will, it was given back to me. Promoting me to the Corsairs, allowing me to strike back at the wolves, letting my fury find purchase in defense, in support, and in glorious battle. I know, as I'm sure you did, that without focus, my heart would have grown toxic. It was my pride in my position that sustained me through the Hildian campaign, that led me to victory in battle against Velenix, the forgotten Kell, the last hope for the unchained wolves. I now know that it was my willful pride that brought me low. My lady, I offer again the only explanation I can. I did not know the Guardians would act as they did. All I had known, all I had ever known, were the ways of the Awoken. The wolves were entrenched in that valley, the approaches were blocked, all sight lines covered. An assault on their position was madness. We would have spent precious Awoken lives, for nothing. I saw the Guardians. I knew they were on the move, but I assumed they saw the situation as we did, that it was folly to call on the crows. Prince Aldrin's fighter wing did a masterful job. The blast was pinpoint precise. The blast tore apart the wolves, and the Guardians, and their ghosts. 3 strike teams of Guardians, gone in an instant, on my order. The city's anger, the speaker's condemnation, all earned, all fair. But it has been years since the Reef Wars. The city, these people, they're not like us. They do not understand their place in the world, and do not listen when I speak it. Please, allow me to return home to my people, to serve you once again. Reef frames. Many of the Reef's oldest frames were salvaged from cargo ships that washed up on the Reef hundreds of years ago. In the city, frames were equipped with a basic learning capability, able to mimic behavioural and personality quirks. Not so on the Reef. There, frames are seen as computers with robotic appendages. No more, no less. The Reef cryptarchy is careful to back up and encrypt all data stored in the frames, and to wipe the frame's processes on a regular basis. The Royal Awoken Guard. In all military matters, the Queen's commands are carried out by her 7 paladins. 4 command the Royal Armada, including the Corsairs and the Vestian Guard, Abrazaya, Kamala Rior, Harlem Fen, and Leona Brill. 2 command the Royal Army, including the Reef's battle stations and military installations, Pavel Nolg and Devi Castle. The 7th Paladin commands the Royal Awoken Guard, whose primary task is to safeguard the Queen in any and all matters. This includes threats not only to her person, but to the Reef as a whole. As such, the Royal Awoken Guard works closely with the Queen's brother, Master of Crows, Prince Aldrin Sov, and every Guard member is trained in espionage and diplomacy, as well as in firearms and hand-to-hand combat. Master Ives, Cryptarch. Public service announcement for all arriving Guardians. Please note, the Tower cryptography operates under many false beliefs. By the Queen's mercy, the Reef cryptography will educate you on the true nature of encryption, if you so desire. In ancient times, Earthlings thought there were 3 states of matter. We now know there to be 4: solid, liquid, gas, and engram. Of these, the engram is the purest state of matter. The role of the cryptarchy is to encrypt and safeguard civilization's informational infrastructure, not to decrypt anything and everything for any low-down scavenger who happens upon an engram. The Coven. On the eve of war. The chamber was dark. The 7 of them were rarely in a room together anymore, but this was the eve of their greatest journey. A plan that overcame death and spanned universes. They were all connected in trance, communicating as the ancients did, speaking would tip their hand to the harbinger minds they kept there, trophies from an ageless war, and weapons in the right hands. Oryx could kill her if she holds on too long. Sedia offered through the silence, fearing what was to come. We took an oath long ago, obedience even in the face of defeat. Nassia despised fear. Only a defeat here, now, not there, then. Ilin wandered between the 2 sides of 3. The amulet around her neck marked Ilin as the Coven's mother, granting her visions beyond the veil, places only the Queen could go. So we hope? Callie had long sought the power of the amulet, but Techians are taught not to desire. Our Queen awaits. Lizel attempted to end the challenges. There was little time and a war to fight. So now the decision is nigh, the Harbingers, which to prepare. Shiro was determined to see this all through. Excitement was taught to be kept at bay. We cannot send them all, Portia reminded. All but one, the oldest. It stays with us. Sedia, Kali, Shiro, take the children. Tell her they are to be planted into a dead thing, to have children of their own. A plan hid behind Ilan's eyes, but Techians do not share their eyes with others. What if they're not wise enough for the dreadnought? Ilan turned back to the source. Sedia, do you not have faith in our queen? And finally, the aftermath. Do not fear, brother. This was the only choice I had. The sound of her voice ripped him from sleep. He jumped up. His ship was still contained in its protective sphere. He tried to retract the shield, but it was locked to its initiation time. He couldn't remember activating it. Then he remembered the battle, that blast. What that ship fired was ancient, not bound to anything the Origin libraries even sought to describe. He tried to calm down. He thought of her, searching for her pull. He couldn't find it, but he was not calm. She always told him she would always be there behind the calm. All he could hear were echoes of that sound. It began as soon as they hit the ring plane, ringing in the old glimmer of his long buried self, before she showed him who he was, in the before and in the after. The Techians should have known what the dreadnought could do, must have known. Did they not feel what he felt? Hear what he heard? That damn ketch, it wasn't protected, they had to know that. All to deploy the Harbingers. They barely got a foothold before the weapon was fired. He thought of Petra, and how overwhelmed she must be, forced to hold her post and watch her people perish. He tried to calm himself again, forcing long breaths. He realized where he was. Mars, Athabasca, the Condor Isles. He hadn't been here in so long, not since he found the Black Garden. The countdown to the shield's deactivation pulsed. He tried again, to home in on her, to find if she truly gave herself for this battle. He felt close to something, a hum of starlight. Then shield deactivation broke his focus. He climbed out and saw the damage to his ship, and the truth of the Armada's devastation sunk in. He turned in despair to find hundreds of his Crow drones, deployed on Mars long ago, circling his ship, waiting. "Welcome back, Master." The one close to him spoke first, and the others followed. A wave of salutations echoed throughout the dry sea, and with that, hope returned. "Begin repairs to this ship immediately. Something has gone missing, and I want you to help me find it." Thank you for joining me through this video about the Queen. In the next video, we'll be reading about Rasputin. Until then, I'll see you next time.